just to be able to breathe.
Okay, it's about, we have time to get through, and we are going to jump into it. Team meetings obviously a little bit smaller, more intimate today, and we're doing the business planning clinic. Jared, would you like to share with us from a Kelly beforehand? Welcome, welcome.
All right.
Big round of applause.
Fancy it's packed in here. Hope everyone had a good Thanksgiving. Safe travels. Hopefully everyone got back safely. One thing we have been noticing, there's been a little bit more of an uptick in foreign and out-of-state sellers. If you know you have one, try to get them into contact with us. The earlier the better. That way we can send them all the affidavits that they'll need to see. And that way they have a chance to speak with their CPA if they have one well ahead of closing, just so we can get their numbers finalized. That way they have a better idea of what to expect at closing. Other than that, gearing up for the holidays again.
Thank you. Hey, James, appearance you ordered.
I'll be quick. I mean, you guys have a busy day, I know. Kind of, Jared made me think of something. I've been seeing buyers too, some out-of-state buyers. So again, make sure you let the lender know and the attorney know, because if they have a power of attorney, like I've got someone right now doing a power of attorney, we have to know that. We have to know why they can't be at closing. You have to get a letter to the attorney to prepare that. So just kind of think of those things, because we were talking too, and what December seems a little slow right now, but what's going to happen is everybody's going to want to get in before Christmas and before the end of the year, so it's going to get really busy. So those things are really important. So anyway, just think about those little things. Rates still the same, mid to high sixes, so under 7, yay. And then I found a little quote. I'm all in the quotes now, but because you're doing this business planning thing, I found one this morning, and it's Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, my fave. I like him since the WWE days. But anyway, this is what I saw this morning actually. It says success isn't overnight. It's when every day you get a little better than the day before. It all adds up. So I saw that this morning. I thought that'd be great for your business planning session today. And do you guys need anything? What is it?
Thank you. All right. One of the things I want to make sure that on your radar is the Jeff Glover event. So if you're not familiar with Jeff Glover, he is a Keller Williams real estate agent. He owns and runs an incredibly large business up in Michigan, and he also owns a coaching and training company. For the past couple of years, he's been doing twice a year, kind of coming through the Atlanta area and hosting a one-day clinic, kind of workshop. And so that's going to be next Thursday in Sugarloaf area. It's only $29. It's phenomenal value. You're going to get so much great value out of it. Seats are limited, so if you haven't registered and signed up and gotten your tickets, they're already more than 3/4 of the way sold out, and they're about to open it to the public. So right now it's just been Atlanta Partners agents that have been registering. So please make sure that if you haven't signed up for that you do that. If for some reason you can't make it next Thursday, I do know that they're streaming one online this Thursday as well. So if you go to their website, I think you can register if you wanted to do the online version. But that is this Thursday. The in-person in Atlanta is next Thursday.
Do you know if we'll have access to that afterwards? Because we still filled that day.
Right.
Was it just a live stream, or do you think it'll be recorded with access to it?
I think in the past it's been recorded and then the link to the recording's been sent out. But let me, I'll email my contacts.
Okay.
And I'll get back to you on that. And remind me if you don't hear about me today. Okay. So we are going to jump into this business planning clinic. And because it's such an intimate setting here, this is going to be more of a workshop. And so I'd love for you to really participate, ask questions as we get into it. And I am going to pull up my notes here as well. I'm going to be referring to this. So the agenda today, typically this is like a 4 to 6 hour workshop. Obviously we have 2 hours, right? So we're going to get through talking about models and mindsets, going over the economic model, the lead generation model. We may have an opportunity to get to the budget model, but really those first 2 foundational models we'll be covering together today. And so you have a workbook in front of you. This workbook really covers what we can get to today, and we can also send you the link to the entire full packet as well for you. so that you have access to all the materials for the rest of the stuff as well. So Jason did teach this clinic back in October, and I am also redelivering this to you today as well. So you may have had an opportunity to see him teach this as well. All right, so the goals of the course is that we're going to be able to understand those 5 fundamental models. Obviously, we're not going to get to all of them today. We're going to hopefully create a foundational business plan for you, and we are going to help you put that plan in place so that you can execute on that plan for 2023. So typically, you will see Keller Williams talk a lot about business planning in October of every year. And the reason that we consider October to be business planning month is because really your 2023 year starts in that last quarter of the previous year. And the reason is because we know that what we do today shows up 60 days from now. So if we're lead generating today, likely that business is going to close, January or February of next year. So we're a little bit behind if we haven't kind of like already thought this through and kind of started putting a plan in place. But you're in the right place because we're going to work through that together. All right, so we talked about how we're going to go through the fundamental models, create a business plan, and execute on that business plan. Are there any additional things that you are helping to get out of this clinic today? Any burning questions that you may have that you want to make sure that get answered?
I just want to, I have my 2023 business plan already filled out.
Okay.
I've got my 1 through 5 already filled out, with my coaching also. This is just to help with more focusing tools. I may not fill it all out already, but because I'm already I'm more ahead now than I've been in years.
Awesome.
So I'm just here to absorb again, knowing that I already have my plan filled out already.
Sure.
Which is
Awesome.
cool.
That is cool. All right.
And I'm starting from scratch.
Awesome. Well, that is the right place. Yes. We are going to be starting from scratch, going over all of these things as well.
Can I ask you one question to get straight? Is this kind of like what we did over at the venue?
It is.
Good, because I need to go over that again.
Yes. Yes, it is. Okay. So, the most important foundation of building your business plan is your models and mindset. As you know, Keller Williams is a brokerage, and as an agent, we're strongly based in having really, really strong models. And the reason is that is because these models build habits, and these habits give us predictable results that we're going to end up having. The great thing about models is that all these things are built on other successful agents that have already tried and proven and gotten the results out of these models. And so one of the hardest things as a brand new agent, and even as a seasoned agent, sometimes is like, I don't know exactly what to do. And, just give me the blueprint, show me the roadmap of what to do. And so the great thing is that we do. We have a ton of great models and systems for you to follow as agent. And yet, we have that blueprint and roadmap laid out for you. But the hard part is to be disciplined and follow those models and systems. One of the best things that you can do for yourself in your business is to find another real estate agent that you admire and their business that you admire and go to them and say, hey, how did you do it? And they're going to tell you exactly how they did it. And you need those people around you to emulate, to follow their systems and models so that you can then go out and implement that yourself as well. There's 2 paths to that success, right? There's the easy way and then there's a hard way. And eventually you can probably get to those results either way you take it, but we just know that following that system and model and emulating what another agent has already done is going to get you to that path much faster with less mistakes and less headaches and less expense as well. This next slide kind of really gives you an overview of why it's so important to build your business on a foundation of models. So you see models at the bottom and you have creativity on the top. That is going to give you the most stable business. And then on the other side, you have creativity on the bottom and models on the top. Just looking at this and kind of like we're all at different points in our career, what does this speak to you, or does this bring up any feelings for you?
You can spend a lot of time being creative or creating something new to make it look more attractive, but if you're putting too much time and focus on that, then you're not reaching out to the clients like you really need to with models and those touches.
Yeah, that is hit the nail right on the head, right? So if you begin with the creativity over here on the unstable, and then you add a model that you haven't fully implemented, you're risking having that model not work. And so the hardest thing in the beginning of your business, and even when you get into your business, is that sometimes following a model and a system, it's exciting in the beginning, right? Because you're learning it, it's new. You're like, okay, yes, this speaks to me, this is what I want to do. And so you start following that model and system, and then that's going to build habits, right? We all know sometimes habits get boring. And so then when that gets boring, then you're like, okay, well, let's add some creativity on top of that. And if you add that creativity layer on there too fast, you risk kind of coming up with that like shiny object syndrome or like squirrel. You know, if you don't give your model a long runway to prove itself to be successful for you, and you get into that boredom, and then you start seeking out a different model, or you start seeking out ways to be creative with that model, that's when things really kind of go awry. And so it's really developing that skill within us to really develop those habits so that we are able to stay focused on what that system and model is. One of the greatest things that came out of Mega Camp this year is that they interviewed a ton of agents on stage, and not only did they interview them on stage, and that was kind of like a tiny little 5-10 minute interview, but they also, with their same agents, they did like a 30-minute interview with them in depth of their model or system that they were talking about. All of those videos are posted on the Keller Williams YouTube page, and so you can go and dig into a little bit deeper of how they're running that system and model. And in addition to that, they also did a one-page model for every single agent that they interviewed. So we've shared those resources with you in our private Facebook group, and we'll share that with you again. But let's just say that when we get a little bit deeper into this, you might hear about farming or door knocking or running social media ads. And you say, okay, that speaks to me. I think I want to include that as part of my business plan, but I don't really know how to do that. You can go to that resource, find that agent that gave their exact system and model of how they were successful doing that. You can watch their YouTube video and kind of put that together and really get that great training. So that is a really cool thing that they did this year at Mega Camp. Another great resource for implementing really great systems and models is the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book. So if you do not have that book, reach out to me and I will send you a digital copy of it. But that is, the foundational model for building a really great, successful business. It's what all of these models are based upon that we're going over today. But in that book, it also goes deeper into how to actually execute on this plan and build it out.
KW Connect is an amazing resource as well. KW Connect does all kinds of different places. I see a lot of people trying to figure out ways of doing different new businesses models, and one of the things that KW Connect has a great resource on is first-time home buyer seminars. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have it laid out step by step exactly what to do, the flyers, everything. So KW Connect is a wonderful way to find other courses.
Yeah, that's great. And in addition to like those printed materials and things like that, they also have videos where people have taught like a class somewhere, and you can go watch it. And sometimes it's not just like one person; you can get like 5 different people that have taught different variations of it or shared their model, and everyone does it a little bit different. And so you can, there's a great resource for you. So in the beginning of your career, and throughout your career, you're going to enter this business, or you're going to have some natural ability that is going to get you results. And then there's going to be a time period where you are working, and then you're going to hit a ceiling of achievement. And it's going to feel frustrating. You're going to, why can't I break through to the next level? You know, I sold 10 houses this year, I'm on pace to sell 10 houses next year, but man, I really want to hit that 25. How in the world do I do that? Whenever you're hitting up against this natural ceiling of achievement, that is a signal that you need to change or adopt a system or a model to get you to that next level. And so by implementing those foundational models, it's going to cause you to break through to the next level, and then you're going to be able to layer some creativity on those models, and then you're going to hit another ceiling of achievement, and then you're going to go back to your model and say, okay, well, what else do I need to layer in? What do I need to change and do differently? And that's how you continually improve along the way. Obviously, in this business, every time you do something, you are learning something every single time. You know, the good, the great, and the bad and the good is that no two transactions are ever alike. You're constantly learning things throughout that process, but you're also improving with your customer service experience, and you're getting better at your lead generation skills. And so all of those things combined are going to help you to be able to continually improve if you seek out that knowledge and information. So obviously, if you're just doing the same old, and you're coming to all these great classes, but then you're never implementing anything that you are learning, then it would make it really, really hard to break through that ceiling of achievement. This graph is what we refer to as moving from entrepreneurial to being purposeful in your business. So whenever you put that plan, that systems and models behind it, then we are running a business with purpose. And that is one of KW's 6 personal perspectives that we teach, is moving from E to P. So you'll hear that, moving from E to P. And to sum that up in short, that's just putting a really great system and model around it and being very, very purposeful in your activities. Any thoughts on this?
But I want to add that with, if you don't know what you're aiming for, any road will get you there. But you really can't fill out your business page or 135 or whatever, because if you don't have those numbers, you don't know why you're doing what you're doing. You don't have your why in place. Why are you doing anything? There's no reason to get up in the morning.
Yeah.
And why do you trust your kids to go to school? Why? Because you want them to get educated and become nice adults. Why do you take your dog for a walk? Well, if you don't, you're going to be cleaning up his mess.
Right.
It's the same thing. It's you're aiming for a result. And for years, I never really had that why, and I understand how powerful it is.
Nice why.
Yeah, that's super powerful and important, and that's going to be like a really great segue into the next section here, and that we know that in order to have a really great business, we have to have a really strong foundation built on models and systems. And then in addition to that, you have to have the correct mindset around why you're doing this business of what you're doing. And that involves thinking like a millionaire real estate agent, but underneath all that is like, why are you doing this? Why are you in this business? So just to dig in a little bit deeper about the models, one of the hardest things in the beginning is just like Judy said, is that you want to put creativity and put your own spin on things, and you don't want to do it exactly like someone else has done it, but kind of recreate that wheel and come up with new ways of doing things can be very exhausting, time-consuming, and a waste of your time. When we know that faster path to success is just by following that system and model, and sometimes we have kind of limiting beliefs around models. We think that we don't need them. You know, we can do this, we got it. Or I don't want to do it that way. There's a list on, I don't know what page it is for you, but there's the myths there, and it says another limiting belief around models is that they limit your freedom. That they're too constricting. And I would argue the opposite of that. Models give you freedom because they give you a really solid plan to follow. They give you exactly what you should be doing every single day, and it helps you make better, more informed business decisions, so that you can get to where you want to go. Because the whole purpose of this clinic today is like figuring out what those income goals are and figuring out how many houses we need to sell, and the models are going to help you with that. Some people believe that models are just opinions. That's false, right? We know that everything that we're teaching is based on other very, very successful real estate agents' businesses. All of the models that we give at Keller Williams are based upon other agents' businesses. It's not as if they're just pulling this out of thin air and saying, hey, go try this, this works. And some people think that the models won't work for them. So this is a good thing to kind of remind yourself is that when we think of models, there's lots of different models for all different types of things, and there's lots of different ways to lead generate. So you can talk to 10 different agents about 10 different lead generation sources, and you're going to have 8 of them tell you, oh, that sucks. That's not a good lead generation source. Door knocking doesn't work. Don't waste your time. Cold calling, everyone's going to hang up on you, and that doesn't work anymore. And you're always going to give those opinions, and yet you can find those models and systems of agents that are doing that at a really high level. They're making a lot of money off of it. It's all just a matter of what model do you want to work, and are you going to be disciplined to put that into action and follow through? And that's not to say that every model is not for you, and that's okay. It's a personal decision that you're making, but just be very mindful of who you're listening to and getting that advice from when it comes to ideas or models that you may be thinking about doing. You don't want to listen to a negative Nelly when they personally don't have success in that area. Does that make sense?
That's what Jeff Glover said, is that he's like, I'm at 750 homes. I was just talking to his coach. I want to sell 1,000 homes next year. But I can do that. That's a little big difference. So he says, well, I know there's either people I know, or there's people I don't know. There's more people than the people I don't know than there is I know. So if he aims for the people he doesn't know, that's why he does a lot of online marketing, advertising, things of that nature. So he hit his goal, get over 1,000 homes.
I want to ask something about that. How can one person sell 1,000 homes?
Well,
You
can't.
You can't. It
He's
has to
got
be a
like a
team,
team.
right?
Oh, yeah.
So I guess when I hear people talk about I am, instead of saying we, the team, I have to wonder sometimes how can that one person sell 1,000 homes? So what is the largest amount one person itself, an independent agent can probably handle a year?
So a lot of times when you hear of an agent selling a large amount of homes, sometimes you'll hear of a single agent selling 100 homes a year. Typically, they do have showing agents, so an agent that is helping them, or like assistants that are helping and working with them. So they're not doing that entirely by themselves. They may be the only agent that's negotiating and writing the contracts and carrying out that aspect of it. But typically they have leverage. I would almost argue that they have to have that leverage in place, because there's no way that you can provide a good client experience without having that in place. For most agents, that breaking point is around 40 deals a year when you really need to have some sort of leverage in your world. And so part of the one of the models that is taught in the MRA book is the organizational model. And so that really kind of gives you that foundational roadmap of when to make that first hire, who that first hire should be, who's your second hire, based upon successful agents' real estate business. Yeah, that's a good question.
I thought after about 15, that would be crazy.
Well, I think a lot of it depends on if you bring a transaction coordinator into the picture, if you bring, a showing agent into the picture. But those types of things will create that leverage that will allow you to sell a lot more homes, because then the physicality of actually being at a showing and that kind of stuff, of being in a different place, you can't be at two places at once. So having that leverage, I think the biggest part of that is leverage.
Yeah, and we'll dig a little bit more into that. And the great thing is that you as an agent, I guarantee you, June, if we come back a year and a half from now, 2 years from now, and you're gonna say, wow, like today, you're saying, you know, December 2022, 15 houses is a lot. You're definitely gonna have the ability to sell 30 houses a year and handle that all on your own with a transaction coordinator helping.
That's what I'm saying.
And-
When
and
do you
you're
need
gonna-
help? When do you start needing that extra person to help you? At what point do you not with me?
Yes, so typically the easiest way to leverage out the fastest is to have a transaction coordinator. So there's like 80 something hours that go into executing a real estate contract.
Right.
And the transaction coordinator is the fastest and cheapest way to get leverage in your business. That transaction coordinator is going to take that contract from as soon as it goes binding and carry it all the way to the finish line and coordinate with the lender and the closing attorney and the home inspector and, you know, coordinating with your client. So they free up a lot of that mental energy and also physical energy that it takes to get all that done. A lot of agents will start to seek that out around 15 transactions. We had a really great agent that zoomed in with us at the beginning of the year, and her argument was that after doing 5 transactions ever, that you should immediately hire a transaction coordinator. And her thought behind that was, and her explanation was, you needed that 5 so that you knew how to execute it and how to get it done, so that you just have that personal knowledge. But your time as an agent is much better spent doing lead generation activities or working with clients than it ever will be servicing and working on the paperwork. And so you can get a transaction coordinator there. We have a fantastic one that we have here at the office that we help subsidize for you. So it's only $200 a file, and you pay for that at closing. There's also outside companies that typically charge around $400 of closing, and you pay for that at closing. So it comes out of your proceeds at closing, so it's not an expense that you would have up front. Typically, there's not a penalty there if you were to terminate. If you have a client that terminates, but different transaction coordinators have different kind of rules around it, but most of them do not.
So we do have one here that we can use if we need.
Yes, yeah, her name is Vanessa, and she's fantastic. But we will get a little bit more into like leverage and how you can add that into your business to help you gain more. Okay, so somebody have a question? So thinking like a millionaire real estate agent. So these first 3 are really, really foundational. And like Sean said earlier, you have to know like why you're in this business. Reaching these goals is one thing, but if you don't have a big enough why or purpose for why you're getting up and working on this business every single day, it can make it very, very hard. And it's going to make it hard to achieve those goals, especially when things get really, really tough. So that big why is what's driving you to do that. And what's important that you need to know is that your big why today may look drastically different than what your big why is going to be in a couple of years. This is something that evolves and changes because your financial needs change, your family needs change, and what you're trying to accomplish changes. And as your business grows, you're able to also do more and fund more and live that perfect life. So you have to, whenever you're thinking about this, pick that big why that motivates you right now. And that should be the purpose behind your big why. So you do have a page there that allows you to kind of think about your big why. Just for the sake of time today, and because we have a lot to get through, I'll let you do that on your own time. I'll share with you whenever I got into the business, my big why was I was a former teacher and I hated that career. And I wanted to do everything possible that I could not to have to go back into that career or a traditional W-2, 8 to 5 type job. Shortly after I got my real estate license and quit teaching, my husband came to me and he was like, oh, I'm going to quit my job too. And I'm going to become self-employed. And I was like, wait, what? No, it's just me that can do this. We need your steady income. And so then that big why also kind of changed. I was like, oh, no, we really need money. Like this has to work. And so there's a period of time where my big why was just to not ever have to go back into teaching and also make sure that our household had enough income to continue to support, our everyday expenses. And so, thankfully we're 4.5 years out of that. And so my big why now is not to have to go back to teaching because I've been in this long enough to know that I'm never gonna have to go back to teaching unless that's a choice that I would want to make. Anybody else want to share their big why, if maybe you know that?
My big why is, well, actually, I wanted to do this over 25 years ago, and then things changed. I had a baby, so anyway. But now I'm retired, and I just want to get out here and do something without going back to retail and working their hours and their craziness. And I enjoy being around people and interacting with people.
Yeah.
So I feel like, and I love to engage. So this gives me an opportunity. The more people I get to engage with, it just helps me feel better about myself.
Very good. There's a lot of personal self-satisfaction out of doing this business. So we have to have thinking powered by big why. So we have something to refer back to that keeps us going, because there's going to be many days where those models and systems are boring. You're not going to want to do this. You're going to have difficult clients. Things are going to fall apart. You're going to feel like nothing is going your way. And you're going to have something inside of you that's going to keep you going. And some of us have a bigger muscle than others when it comes to that. I think one of the hardest things for me personally when I first got into this business was building up that emotional muscle of being able to handle the roller coaster of emotions that come with real estate. I'm much better at it now, but for that first year and a half, it was like, I cried all the time. You know, and I would call my real estate friend, like, I don't think I can do this. And just, tell me, like, yes, you can. It's okay. This is normal. This happens. And so you really got to have those people around you, right, that can support you and help you through that.
Real quick, I've been doing this for 18 years, so that is a huge thing too, is to be able to year over year say, okay, what's next? What's my next big why? Have I met my original why? What's my next big why? And how do I continue to do this year over year with the emotional roller coaster and everything like that? So when that why is big enough, when you can really kind of hone into that emotional roller coaster no longer matters. The why supersedes the roller coaster. And so it also, when you accomplish a big why, always making sure you have that next why. What's the next thing that's going to get you up in the morning? So those are the different things that as you work through this business, basically always be yearning for that next step.
Yeah, great point.
What I found out is you don't have to tell anybody your big why.
Yeah.
Because if you do, they're like, well, you can't do that. It's like, no, because they do change. But also, as Gary Keller says about the next one down, the big goals, it's like, you have to think big. There's no sense in thinking small, because it's the same energy. It's the same daily little tiny steps. If you try to do one thing, it's that little flick of the finger that knocks that first domino down. How much effort was that to do that? None. You can floss one tooth once a day, and maybe in 6 months you'll be flossing your whole mouth, and you won't think twice about ever not going to bed without flossing my mouth. It's that little. It's the goal. What? It's not to have fresh teeth so you don't lose your teeth.
Right.
So big goals are monstrous, and then that gets you out of bed
Yeah.
in the morning.
Yeah, no, I like that. So you have to have that big why that is powering those big goals. And, our goals are different, right? So we're all in different journeys in our real estate career. And, June, said like 15 houses now might seem a stretch. And then once you accomplish that, then you're like, okay, well, I just accomplished this. And now I got that behind me. What else can I do? And I think that's the most amazing thing about this business. The most amazing thing about Keller Williams that it gives you is that what you set your goals at today, what you're going to be able to accomplish in the next 12 months, it's going to be drastically different a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years from now. And you as a person, your mindset, your goals, your big why, all that's going to change. And just one thing, going back to the big why. Sometimes you'll hear people that have like these really great altruistic big whys, that they're sending money, to Africa for orphans. Fantastic. That is great that is your big why. But your big why can also just be to fund your family's financial needs. or to take your family on a really amazing vacation, or to buy a new house. It's going to run the gamut, and it's all very personal to you. For me, sometimes I personally have struggled with whenever I hear people talk about the big why, because I don't have that strong connection to something, really bigger than myself. And a lot of it is just really what I can do personally for my family, and how that trickles down and out and impacts others. So that's just my little 2 cents about the big why and how that shows up. But it is a very, very personal thing that is personal to you.
Well, I think the big why, like the family point of it, I mean, I've shared, I think you guys all might have heard, is that I wanted my kids to be debt-free when they got out of college. That was like a huge, that was amazing for me to be able to have them debt-free when they got out of college. So then the next, when you start seeing some of these things happen within your family dynamics, and you're able to give that to your children and to your family, I think, at least for me, like it opened up doors to other things and the reality that I could be able to be an impact on other things outside of my family. So that kind of helped me as well.
Good point. All right, so the big why is gonna help you think about those big goals and those big models that you're gonna need to achieve those big goals. And then after that fifth millionaire mindset habit that you're gonna need is to have the action and accountability around those goals driven by your big why to actually help you, achieve that goal. One of the tools that we use in KW to really help you achieve your goals is a tool called the 411. And so we taught a workshop on that, I believe back in October. And so we have that recording that we'll share with you. So I'm not going to spend like a whole lot of time going into this, but just a brief overview. That 411, once you develop your yearly goals, that yearly goal is going to go on the top of your 411. Based upon that yearly goal, it's what needs to happen this month in order to be on track to hit that yearly goal. And then based upon that month goal, what needs to happen every single week to make sure that you're hitting that big goal, or that monthly goal. So part of that is by obviously working backwards, right? We know if we do everything we need to do every single week, that's going to lead us to what we need to do for the month, which is going to help us achieve what we need for the full year. So,
And that thing doesn't have to be just business, it can be used whatever you want.
yeah, so a lot of people put, both their business goals and personal goals on this as well. So having a financial goal with that, having a health goal around that, or, going on a date night with your spouse once a week. Those are things that, one of the great things about this business is that it really helps you find your perfect life, and that's different for every single person. And your life is not just your business. That includes family and vacations and all of those other things that are very important to us. So I think in your workbook, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry. I don't know.
Page 2, 19.
219.
Are you looking for the triangle that you have up here?
No, I was looking to see if y'all had this.
2.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Okay, good. So we're not gonna spend time on this today, but just know that this comes out of the book, The One Thing, and this kind of helps you set goals of like, what is your someday goal? Like, what is that goal of, dreaming far into the future of what you want to achieve? And then basically you're working backwards of, okay, if that's what you want to happen someday, what would need to happen 5 years from now in order to be on track to make that happen? And then what would need to happen this year to put you on track to make that 5-year goal happen, and vice versa. And just kind of working backwards in that. So goals work best when you bring accountability into your world. And so it's important to have that accountability because you have to take action on those goals in order to make them happen. And we talked about this earlier, but following those systems and models, like how good is your focus over time? That is what is going to be a direct indicator of how successful you are in reaching your goals. is how well you can focus. And for a lot of people, they're not the best at that part of it, which is why we need that accountability partner or person in our world to help us achieve that. It works best when you're doing that with someone else that's not you or your spouse. Don't use your spouse, that's not a good idea. And the purpose of having that accountability is to getting feedback. You need someone that is going to be honest with you, that is going to give you feedback, and hold you accountable for how you are doing it, and that can be a great sounding board. So with that, you have a lot of great different options for accountability within the Keller Williams world. Sean, I know that you mentioned that you were in coaching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you have a coach. Okay, tell me a little bit about how that's going as far as accountability and what impact it's making for you.
Well, when you get skin in the game, you really take accountability pretty seriously. I'm not the one to, well, I had been the one to try to pull wool over my music teacher's eyes and say that I practiced my part. I'm supposed to practice for next week's lesson. I come in and I didn't practice, right? I'm wasting my time, I'm wasting their time, I'm wasting my money. But when you are held accountable with the things you say you're going to do, and you actually do them, it makes learning to the next level that much more enjoyable, and it happens that much more quicker because you're putting the activities in.
Yeah.
Accountability. I'm not the one to find excuses why I didn't do it. I know why I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I just, plain and simple.
Right.
Just, you know, my favorite quote is, it says, John, the reason why I made this box so small is so a story wouldn't fit. All I need is a number. And the number tells the whole story. Well, your accountability to my coach, or my accountability to my coach, is basically, did I do what I said I was going to do? If not, well, that little box can't fit my story. So it keeps me from putting in stories and excuses, and actually allows me to put in the true activities that need to be done in order for me to want to be like my coach.
Yeah. So we have great coaching options here at KW. So David Blanton leads our productivity coaching. So is that Zoom? No? It's weird. Okay. So David Blanton leads our productivity coaching program. Thea is one of our coaches in the productivity coaching program. Sean, I believe you're coaching with Anne. Is that right? She's so additional layer of coaching that we have. So we have that here immediately in this office. And then Keller Williams has a professional arm of coaching called MAPS. That is where you pay a flat fee every single month, and you have you can either do a twice a month program or an every single week program. But I'll have to say that for me as a new agent, after being in this business for a while and I was on a team and then I decided to go on my own, that was a scary decision, but also like I wanted to be successful. And our coaching program back then didn't quite look like what it is today. So there wasn't like an immediate option within the market center to coach directly with someone here. But I looked around and every single class that I'd been in, every single top producing agent that was on a panel, they all had a coach. And so I knew, hello, we have systems and models, right? And the systems and models says that you have to have someone hold you accountable. And I saw these other successful agents have a coach. And so I'm like, well, if they have a coach and they're successful, then that's what I need to do. I need to have a coach and I need to be successful because that's what I want. And so I found out who they were coaching with and signed up for coaching. And I've never not had a coach. So even in the role as team leader, we have a coach in this role. So it's a really, really amazing thing that has done wonders for your business because there's going to be a time period where your motivation is going to run dry. That big why is going to wane, or you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this. And so you need that kind of person pulling you accountable that kind of reminds you or can talk you through those things, in addition to giving you like really great business advice on keeping you accountable to your goals and what you're doing every single week. The best types of coaches are going to be ones that you're reporting your numbers to. They're holding you accountable for your daily and weekly activities that you're doing, and you're wanting to know those numbers. It's imperative that you know your numbers. And so even if you don't have that relationship, and we'll dig into this more as it comes up, but you are going to need to track everything in your business. The more data you have, the better. And it's going to help you get to your results a lot faster.
Just to interject, the different coaches that are outside, can be different styles of coaching.
Yeah.
So I interviewed a lot of coaches before I finally chose an outside coach, and transformational coaching was something that I went with. I went with transformational coaching a year and a half ago, and my business increased from about 7 million was about my top initial. I'll be over 10 million. So just in a year and a half, and there is no doubt in my mind that coaching was what helped me get there. It helped me put the models and things into place, and to be more purposeful about my business.
Yeah, that's great. And sometimes, I think sometimes we have a need, or you'll hear from other real estate agents like, oh, I've been doing this for a long time, I don't need a coach. And that might be fine for them, and there is, there isn't a right or wrong answer. I would strongly say that the right answer is to have a coach, because if your goal is to continually improve and do more and earn more and do more with that money, it's imperative that you have that accountability partner. Professional athletes have coaches. They're getting paid millions of dollars to do that, and yet not only do they have the coaches on their team, but a lot of them also have private outside coaches and people that they work with as well. So
I asked Ann, I said, what did you do to get all those medals? No.
Yeah.
So I had a XYZ coach and did what he told me to do. And that's what it boils down to is the foundation.
Yeah, and really what that coach is doing is holding you accountable to that system and model that y'all have agreed upon that you're going to follow. I think there's another page in your book that just kind of helps you with that setting goal process. So we're going to skip through a couple of pages here so that we can get to the triangle page. So we're going to start digging into the models.
That page right there?
Yes.
219, yeah. That's where it's all.
Hey, Lisa, just let us know if you have any questions as you're joining us. Lisa Gonzalez is on.
Okay.
We have one participant. Okay.
For sure,
right.
I'm on my way.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna start digging into the models, and the foundational model of the MREA system is this triangle: listings, leverage, and leads. This is the foundation of your business. This is the pillar of everything that you do to help build your business. And this is really what we're going to talk a lot about on how to build this plan. What's important about these three pieces in our real estate business?
They all work together.
Yeah, they definitely all work together. You have to have leads, you have to have listings, and you have to have leverage. Leads is at the bottom. Why?
Gotta work at
It's the foundation,
That's your foundation.
because you have to have the most of that.
That's where your listings come from.
Yeah, that's where your listings come from. That's where your business is going to come from. It's going to give you the income so that you can hire off that leverage and support. But yes, 100%. Like without these leads and people to work and connect with and get future business out of, you don't have any of the others. Okay, so at the bottom of that page, it states that a business plan is an annual roadmap detailing your business future objectives and directions for achieving them. And so looking at that chart down there, a business plan will help me achieve the money I need for my lifestyle. Yes or no? Yes.
Yes.
Right. Tell me how many appointments to attend each week to meet my goal.
Yes.
Yes. We are going to figure that out here shortly. Help me control my business expenses.
Yes.
Yes. Help me identify when and how I can grow my business.
Yes.
Yes, that organizational model is going to help you understand when to make your first hire and what that should be. Identify my lead generation strengths and opportunities. Yes. Yes. Help me determine when to hire help.
Yes.
Save me time.
Yes.
Yes. Save you time to help you keep focused so that you can ignore other things that are distracting you from what it's going to take to build a successful business. Okay, so these are the 5 foundational models of the millionaire real estate agent. These are the models that we are going to get into. For sure, we're going to have time to get into the top 2, maybe 3. All of these models work together. This is not a menu of a business plan where you say, oh, I'm going to follow the lead generation model and that's what I'm building my business plan off of. No, they all work in conjunction with each other. The economic model, though, is the absolute foundation of your business plan. By working out the economic model, it's going to tell you to achieve the amount of net income you desire. Like, what are the activities? How many houses do you have to sell to get at the end of the year that net income that you want? The lead generation model is going to tell you how many leads you need to generate to get that net income that we determine from the economic model. The budget model is going to help you identify parameters of how to spend that money to help get those results. Because as you start making money, and I think Keith, we were talking about this the other day, as real estate agents, we just get bombarded with emails and different ways of how you can spend this money that you're earning, right? It's endless. So that budget model is going to help you with that. The organizational model will help you deciding when to bring in leverage. And then expansion model, we're not going to get into that, but if you ever wanted to expand out into other territories and have like a really big team, it would allow you to systemize that in a way that would allow you to expand. Okay, we are almost at 11 o'clock. I do want to take a break. Before we take a short little 5-minute break, anyone want to tell me like any aha or something that they've taken away from this first hour that we've been doing? Anything that resonated?
I think the one thing that keeps kind of popping back in my brain with the different clinics I've been to just in the past couple months is that your big why constantly changes. And it's not necessarily from year to year, but especially if it's, I don't want to say if you have children at home, but if your children are adults, it's like right now it's more, if they're still at home or still under your financial umbrella cap, it's just very different than where other people might be, where they're empty nesters or their children are gone. But it's so great to hear other people's big why, like where they're at the moment and the realistic ones, I guess you should say.
Yeah.
So it just keeps it in that perspective.
I actually think that building your economical model really sets the platform where you need to go. And you wouldn't think about that when you get started. Like all I wanted to do was sell a house, sell a house. I never really put down an economical model to fill out what I need to do to get there. So this is really going to help me get here.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're going to take a 5-minute break. When we get back, we are going to jump into the economic model and start figuring out those exact numbers that you need in your business to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Sweet. Take a 5-minute break and we'll be right back.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you.
I'm just cracking up.
Hey, that's all right. We're happy to see you.
Probably not the only one who,
I am probably very, very short. You're very, how are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good. Hey, Chuck.
Hey.
Let me just fire
Okay.
the event. There's loads of tickets left, so if you're planning
Okay.
on going, we're involved.
I'm involved, so. Yeah, I'm not gonna miss both of that,
Okay.
so.
Yeah.
I mean, not that it's not,
No,
but
I
you know what I'm saying.
Yes, yes.
I'm in the process, so
That's
I'm not
correct.
gonna.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually what I'm working on today. I'm about to go into a meeting and that can trip out with me, and I'm gonna go through every single thing that you guys have signed off on. Double check, first make sure that our totals are correct.
That'll also be on Saturday.
Still gonna be around.
Yes, yes, and I'll still be able to help you with anything that you need.
Yeah, that was the first one, yeah.
Right, yes, yeah, and that's kind of where I am.
Okay. That's fine. I'm gonna, after this meeting, I'm gonna call Stephen and see what he's got. Fridays are things are easy for him too. Because that should work. So I went to orthopedics. After I saw what I'm doing, I think I'm going to do I have 2 tears, so I don't want to medial today. And I'm gonna do surgery. I feel like I mentioned that, and he said that, and I'm like, are you sure? Because I talked to him yesterday. And he said, we were sure too. He just said, that's just the system, that's not the tubing, the duct work, the wiring, it's just like.
Hey.
Still, that's just sitting up. I said, but, yeah, so, but any, what if I'll tell you? That's what I thought too. Yeah. I'll talk to Stephen first, and then if, see what he says, and then if he agrees this is a little lumpy, I like that you do that, because I thought that's the rest. That's what he said.
So we don't say hamster wheel.
I know, right? I know. I'm like, I'll take 2. I'll take 2 and just put them in storage, right? Exactly. So, yeah, I told him about that yesterday. So I was working on my stuff. Yeah, you have to call God. That's totally fine. I'm like,
Second
I think it's gonna happen.
Would you rather tax and then see the rest of this money when we get to
I agree. That's why I'm saying that they want their own time. Especially when they're not here, it's gonna be done, right? I'll work on that today and I'll get back to you
Okay, so I know that a couple people have joined us. I have two more participant guides. Okay, awesome. I got one coming over this week after somebody else comes in. Okay, so we have been covering business planning clinic. For those of you that are just joining us, we covered the importance of foundations and models in your business. We just talked about the big why and goals and setting those and having accountability in your world and why that's so important. I'll go back to this slide. These are the 5 foundational models of the MRA, and the economic model is the foundation of your business plan. This is not numbers 1 through 4. It's not like a menu of like you're picking which model you want to follow. These are all designed to work in conjunction with each other. They all provide different information that's going to help you in building your business plan. And so today we're going to dive into the economic model, which is the absolute foundation of your business. So the foundation model, the economic model, which is the foundation, is going to give you the information that you need to determine if you want to net a certain amount of income, what does everything else in the business need to look like? So that's what we're going to go through this example. So at the top, you see that there you're putting in, like, we're not going to pull this in here, I'm going to show you an example, and then you'll have an opportunity to do your own. But in this example, if someone wanted to net $1 billion in GCI, we're going to go through and look at what everything else in their business would need to look like. So you'll see at the top that there's percentages along with net income, operating expenses, and cost of sale. So these percentages are based upon studying millionaire real estate agents' businesses. And what we know is that typically net income ends up being about 40% of the GCI, of the total amount of money that you earn. Operating expenses end up being about 30% of the cost of running your business. And then cost of sale ends up also being about 30%. One of the things that you need to know is that this is largely dependent upon what type of business you have. If you're on a team, or if you're a team owner, this is largely close to what your expenses look like. If you are an individual agent, these ratios are a little bit different. And so there's resources in the MREA which will give you like what that looks like as an individual agent so that you can estimate a little bit better. But let's just run through this and we'll dive into it a little more deeper. So $1 million is 40% of $2.5 million. So in this model, for someone to net $1 million, accounting for 30% operating expenses and 30% cost of sale, that would get them to that $1 million. So they would spend $750,000 on operating their business, $750,000 on the cost of sale.
Can I ask you one question?
Mm-hmm.
I know you have this operating expenses and cost of sale, and everybody's taxes are different. So where would you calculate, I mean, because you have your net, that's how much you want to make after your taxes, right?
So this net is not factoring in taxes.
Okay.
So just keep this in mind, and that in these models, taxes are not factored in at all. You will need to set that aside or account for that as well.
Okay.
So, what's that?
Who told me that?
Pay your taxes.
You gotta pay taxes?
So an important thing to note about this, and the large questions that always come up whenever we're looking at this model is cost of sale. So cost of sale, if you are an individual agent, that cost of sale expense is what you pay the brokerage, your broker fees. So at Keller Williams, here, Atlanta Partners, that is a total of $18,000. So we know if you are an individual agent, that is way less than 30%, right? That's just 18,000. If you are a team owner, or if you eventually have plans to grow, build a team, that cost of sale is the amount that you are splitting and sharing with your team members. That is why this number is much, much higher. We're in this model, we're assuming that if someone is netting $1 million, earning $2.5 million in GCI, they have a team. And so that their team members are earning $750,000. Okay, so in this example, they're saying that the average commission amount is $7,150. So they're taking that total GCI of $2.5 million, they're dividing it by that 7,150 to get how many units this agent needs to sell each year. Because 350 times 7,150 will give us $2.5 million in GCI.
And that commission is 3%. That we're at 7,000.
They're using this based upon whatever this brokerage's average price point is. So, yeah, so that's 3% of, what is that, like, $210,000? No, I'm doing that wrong.
No.
Help me out.
And 7,150 is this average commission amount. Is that
Correct.
based on 3% or is that?
Yes, it is based on 3%. And so this is something that you just want to know whenever you are calculating your own average commission. If you are an agent that does a lot of discounting in your commission, your average commission is not going to be based on a 3% commission rate. If you, occasionally we don't have control over what that other side is offering for a commission rate. Sometimes, 2.5%, 2%, we were seeing that. So it's up to you what you want to base that percentage around. But in this scenario, we're just using, based on a 3% commission, that's the average commission for this person based on their area. We will dig into running this economic model for your business. And just so that you know this for your information, the average sales price in the month of October of closings in this office was $435,000. That equates to with a 3% commission, an average commission of $13,000. So if you don't know those numbers for yourself, or if you're just getting started and you don't have that yet, those are two figures that you can use to help you kind of derive that number. Okay, so we know that when you sell 350 houses, and then you have to say, okay, well, where are those sales going to come from? And so most agents, as your business grows, you're going to be 50% sellers, 50% buyers. Like that's the ideal kind of evenly split business. Sometimes you'll see agents who are more heavy on the listing side. Some agents are more heavy on the buyer side, depending upon who their sphere is and how they lead generate. We'll eventually fill these out for yourself, but we're just going to walk through this example for this agent who has a 50-50 business evenly split. So we're saying we're taking that 350 number, timesing it by 50%, so 0.50, to get 175 listings that this agent needs to sell. This next one is saying, okay, we need to sell 175, but what is our conversion rate? So this is interesting. So like a year and a half ago, if we were doing business planning, we were talking about how many listings do we need to sell. We would essentially say that almost 100% of our listings that we would put up for sale, we're going to sell, right? And in a normal market, we know that not every listing that you put up for sale is going to actually sell. We're seeing a return of more expired and withdrawn listings on the market. Sellers changing their mind. Sellers not getting the price that they want, so they're saying, okay, well, we'll take it off the market and we're going to wait. This happens in a normal market. It's going to happen to you. You are not going to sell every single house that you put up for sale. So what is your conversion rate? An average of a millionaire real estate agent based on businesses that they've studied is a 70% conversion rate. 70% of the houses they list actually end up getting sold and they get income from that. So they're taking that 175 number and they're dividing it by 70 to get the total number of seller listings needed. So this agent actually needs to list 250 houses to actually sell 175. So if we need to get 250 listing agreements signed, what is our appointment conversion ratio? Because we know that unless you're only listing properties with your sphere, which sphere people that we know have a much higher conversion rate, right? It's a much easier listing appointment or buyer appointment that you're going on. But if you're going to meet a stranger or someone that you met at an open house, cold calling, you're interviewing 3 total agents. 2 of those agents are going to lose, right? So what is your conversion rate? We know that really great agents have a 75% conversion rate on their listing appointments. So we know that this agent needs to go on 333 appointments, seller appointments, for that next year. Busy, yes. And so typically though, as someone at this point, they have a team, right? So the team would need to go on 333 appointments. So from this, if you were building a business plan from this, what would you do with this 333 appointments? What would you do with that number? What could you do with that to help you plan throughout the year?
Break it down.
Yeah, you can break it down. You can say, okay, how many do I need to go on every single month? How many does that need to be a week? How many appointments do I need to set a day in order to hit that goal? This goes back to your 411 and your 135. Like, these are the numbers that you would then plug in to help make sure that you are tracking towards your goal. All right, so it's repeating that same side for the buyer side would again give you the exact same number, not exact same number, they have a little bit lower conversion ratio here for buyer appointments. One thing to know about buyer appointments and your sold conversion rate, the sold conversion rate is also 70%. Not every single buyer that you get a signed buyer brokerage agreement or it says that they want to buy a house, they're not always going to buy that house, right? They're going to change their mind, financing is going to fall through, it's going to be too hard for them to find something they want, they're too picky, they lose their job, you know, all kinds of reasons. You're going to have that, what we consider kind of like a fallout ratio. And so that's something that you have to account for in your business plan. It's also kind of like a downfall of agents when they're counting their chickens before they hatch. They're looking at that pipeline and they're like, man, I'm talking to 10 people that are going to transact and buy a house over the next 3 months. No, 70% of those people will probably actually end up working out. You may get luckier, you may have a much higher conversion rate because maybe you have better quality leads, or you know, you might have a better system in place that has a higher percentage. But historically, this is what we know to be true. Also, another important factor on this is these ratios are going to vary drastically based on how and where you get your business from. So if you are working with a lot of expired and withdrawn listings, if you're a cold calling and you are trying to get them to list their house again, your appointment conversion rate is probably going to be much lower. You're going to have to go on a lot more appointments to get a lot more yeses. And so this is when we go back to having a coach that's holding you accountable and tracking your numbers. The only way for you to accurately build a business plan every single year is that if you know your own conversion ratios. Well, if you're not tracking how many appointments you go on, how many agreements that sign, you don't have that data. And the only thing that we can do at this point is just give kind of like our best guess of what we know to be true, based upon other agents or based upon what you feel like your ratio is going to be. But that's just important to know. Whenever you're building out this model, you can do it 2 ways. You can do the goal, like this is what I want to have happen, and then every single month you can plug in your actual numbers to see, are you tracking towards what your goal was, or your actual conversion numbers panning out to be what your plan was. And there's nothing to say, or there's nothing wrong with making a mid-year adjustment of saying, hey, my conversion rate is lower than what I thought. or it's actually turning out to be higher than what I thought, so let's readjust this business plan and let's look at it again. Okay. So here they break it down of this agent would be on 7 seller appointments a week and 39 appointments per month. 7 weeks. All right, so one of the great things about the economic model is it allows you to look at where you're spending time in investments and your performance to get that gross commission income and that net income that you need. That's really kind of like what this tool is helping you achieve in your business. So we talked about that the elements of the economic model was at 30, 30, 40. We talked about 30% operating expenses, 30% cost of sale. If you're an individual agent, that's only going to be $18,000. And so you can make those adjustments in your own plan.
When you, I know you said you're your cost of sale is like your brokerage fees, but on your operation expenses, is that where you can include your office fees? Or is that like renting monthly to your office? Or is that as your interest?
Yes, so your office fee, any expenses that you have, marketing, supplies, signs, lock boxes, anything like that would go there.
So, yeah, question. In the operating expense, does that include our breakdown within the office? Our commissions?
So your brokerage fees that you pay, so your broker split and your royalty fee, that goes into your cost of sale.
In cost of sale.
Yeah. Okay, so the important thing to know about this is that you have these conversion rates here, and those conversion rates, like I mentioned before, those are going to be different for the type of lead generation sources that you have. It's going to be different for each individual agent, and as you get more experience, as you get better with your scripts and your presentations, objection handling, all of those things, likely your conversion rates are going to go up. That's what we want to see, right? Because you're better at presenting that information and handling those objections. So we talked about the importance of really needing to track your numbers so that you can accurately put this into a model at the end of the year.
One thing that I think I learned and I focus on this issue is scripts. You think that you always know what to say or how to say it or the actual way, but I learned that maybe I should do some script practicing to get better knowledge.
Yes.
I recommend that to everybody.
That's a great point. Top agents always script practice. There was a panel that was at a mega agent or mega camp where Jeff Glover and Sarah Reynolds were on a panel together, and they were like scripting and just like sharing their scripts. It was amazing at how well and how confident they spoke, and that was because they practice every single day. These are agents that are earning multi-million dollars in GCI from their teams, and yet they're both still in the business, and they are both still scripting and role playing every single day to get better at that. There's never a time point where you reach in your career where you say, oh, I don't have to do that anymore. Because the objections based on the market are always different, and you want to keep those skills fresh. Eventually you become more natural and good at it, but it is something that you always want to continue to practice. In your packet there, on page, I guess it's 3.7, at the top there it says the 3 drivers of the economic model. It leads to appointments, appointments to sign agreements, and agreements to close transactions. Those are the things that you really need to track, and that leads to appointments ratio. Once you can figure that out, that also just makes your daily activity so much easier. So if you are lead generating through making cold calls, eventually you're going to get that number of, okay, it takes me 100 phone calls to set 2 appointments. Of those 2 appointments, one of those is going to turn into a signed listing agreement. And so then you know, okay, well, if I need to get 5 signed listing agreements this month, that means I need to make 500 phone calls this month. And then you can work backwards. Okay, how many phone calls do I need to make every single day? If one of your lead generation methods ends up being open houses, you need to start tracking those numbers. How many open houses do you need to hold, and how many people do you need to talk to at those open houses to convert a buyer into an actual appointment? So the more data that you have that you can track, the better it is. It's going to help you plan later on. Okay, so on this next page, let's take a minute to calculate your own numbers. So I had to pull out my math teacher training and go back to try to figure out, like, how do you figure out what, you know, your net income, how do you figure out what the bigger number is for the GCI? And so if you know what your net income is going to be, take that number, multiply it by 100, and then divide that by 40. That will give you what your total GCI is. Say that one more time. So let's just say that I'm using hypothetical numbers. Let's just say that you want to earn $250,000 as your net income. That's what you want after expenses. You would take that $250,000 and you would multiply it by 100, get that number, and then divide it by the number 40. That would give you what your total GCI would need to be. And then from that total GCI, then you can do the 0.3, your total GCI times 0.30 to get your operating expense, 0.30 to get your cost of sale.
Both of those are multiplied by 100.
Correct. But also, if you're an individual agent, though, and you know that your cost of sale is only $18,000, instead of multiplying that times 0.30, it's going to throw everything off a little bit. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either use it strictly based upon the numbers that they have, like the 40, 30, 30, or if you kind of have a better idea of your expenses, if you know cost of sale is $18,000 and you're saying, okay, my operating expenses average $20,000, then you can add those 2 numbers up to get your total GCI. Am I making sense there? But you'd have to have an idea of kind of like what your expenses are if you're not using those generic numbers.
So if you take your net sales, how did you get that, your total GCI again? What did you do to get that? I mean, I know it's not even.
Are you going to use these ratios?
Yeah.
Okay. Take that number times, if you want this to be your net, you can multiply this by 100, and then divide it by 40.
Okay.
40%, right? Just 40. Just 40 will be the number.
Okay. And then how do you get these numbers again? These 2 right here?
Once you get this number, that would be your total GCI. And then you would take this number and then times it by 0.30 to give you this number.
Okay, and then you're going to do it again for this one? Okay. Well, yes.
Okay. Anybody need any help with the top part? So after you've done that, Then, if you have an established business, you can kind of know what your percentage of buyers to sellers are. If you don't know, you can come up with those ratios on your own. If you're a newer agent, it's typical that newer agents tend to be a little bit more buyer heavy. So you might have a business that's more 60% buyers, 40% sellers. Or if you know that all of your lead generating activities are going to be solely on listings and that's what you're going after, then maybe that's a different percentage. Conversion rates, the top agents are around 70%. So figure that kind of where you're at in your career and what you want your conversion rates to be or what you think they are. So work through this until you get down to that total seller appointments and buyer appointments needed. Raise your hand if you need help and I'll come around and give some assistance.
My numbers aren't working. I'm just trying to get this right.
Sometimes it's like 3-0.
That'd be the same, right?
Yes. Yeah. Blank page here. Put it in less. That's wrong. Well,
Well, that's very high.
well, so, for an individual agent,
Right.
usually numbers are not going to work out. Your actual cost of sales is going to be $18,000. And then you just have to know, based on your own history of what your marketing and operation expenses are.
Okay, because I was like, oh my gosh.
That makes a lot of sense. Because that's gonna be like your gas, that's gonna be your size,
That goes into that, so it goes into that.
no, operating expense. Cost of sale is only your brokerage fees, so that's an individual agent.
Yeah.
So if you want like a blank template to put these numbers in on, there's a blank page, 3.9. or no, sorry, there's actually another blank one, a couple of pages after that. I think I had to do the wrong one, on 3.17. There's an actual blank one that you can put in there if you want. Sorry about that.
Don't you also have to add that other 6,000 on top of that? Or is it just 18 and it's just broken up two different ways?
So the local broker split, that total cap is 15,000.
Okay,
The
so
royalty,
add-
which is 6%, is 3,000.
I see.
So that's where you get that total of 18,000. That's assuming that you are, capping and achieving 100% GCF. Which that's what we want for you, 100% GCF. Okay, so take a minute or two more, and then we're going to jump into the lead generation model. And while you're finishing that up, I'm just going to talk through on page 313. It says number 7 there. It says avoid some economic model traps. The first one says not understanding the power of the economic model and using it in 2 ways. One, to check where you are, and as a planning tool. You have to kind of like know where you're at and be evaluating that throughout the year. Not using the economic model as a guide to decision making. This is important because if you know in order to net a certain amount of income, you have to hold your expenses to a certain number in order to have that happen. Sometimes it's easy to look at like, oh, I'm getting all these results and I'm selling all these houses, but if your expenses are out of control, then you're not netting that money, you're not profiting that money that you make. You'd be amazed at how much money you can spend to make money, and if you're not getting a good return on that investment, then it's you might be fooling yourself into thinking that you're doing really, really well, but then when you look at your bank account after everything, it's like, oh, you made this, Not knowing or improving your conversion rates, right? So those top agents are at 70%. We're going to work our way to that, and if we're tracking our numbers, we'll know exactly how we compare those models. Not fooling yourself to your goals. This model tells us exactly how many appointments we need to be going on every single year, and we can break that down into weekly and daily. And then not knowing how much lead generation is required to secure the appointments needed. We need to know how many appointments we need, which is then going to help us in the lead generation model of saying, okay, well, how are we going to get these appointments? So now we know that we need to go on 50 appointments a year to get our goal. Now, how are we going to do that? So let's, I'm going to jump through a couple of different slides here for the sake of time, and we're going to dive into the lead generation model. So if you need help with doing this, feel free to seek myself out. Jared is a great resource. If you're in coaching, work with your coach on that, and they'll also give you some really, really great advice around that. So this leads us to, we know how many appointments we need. How are we going to get those appointments? So we know that leads are at the bottom of that triangle, and we want to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. Prospecting means that we are actively out there looking for specific clients that we are wanting to work with. Marketing, as you see, is going to give you long-term results. It's passive, and it costs money to do that. Think of marketing as farming. It's a long-term strategy. You're marketing to an area. Actually, cold calling a neighborhood and having conversations saying, hey, do you want to buy or sell your house? That is prospecting. It's proactive, it's time intensive, it's going to cost you your time, and you're going to have the opportunity to get immediate results. So that's kind of like a good way to figure out the difference between those, and the best strategies have a combination of both, right? Marketing, posting on social media. That is marketing. You are sharing your story, you're getting your name out there, people are seeing you consistently over a long period of time. It's passive, you're going to get long-term results, right? You're running a Facebook social media ad that is, hey, click on this to get a list of all the open houses that are in the area, and then they're giving you their name and phone number, and then you're calling them. That is prospecting. So that's a good way to think about and understand the differences. Prospecting is one-on-one with immediate feedback, and it can cost almost nothing. I think more on, right? Yeah.
So prospecting time, that's all included in your lead generation time, as Gary would say.
Yes.
Just being on the phone, having that chess clock and racking up 3-4 hours a day. That's getting prepared, getting the list, getting everything. So when you do that, that's part of it. So you don't have to keep yourself in the butt feeling bad that you only talk to a lot of people for an hour, but at least you were working at it.
Yes, and that would
activity.
Yes, and that would go back to for you tracking your results, right? So eventually you'll come to know that if I'm going to be on the phone, if one of my lead generation tactics is prospecting on the phone, either through cold calling or whatever, then if we know that we need 50 appointments a year, that's what, 4 appointments a month. And then from there, you can figure out, okay, how many phone calls, how many people do I need to talk to get that appointment? Then that will tell you how much time you need to spend on the phone. So when your conversion rates are low, that might require being on the phone for 3 hours to get that appointment that you need that day. As you get better, you may find that you only have to be on the phone for a total of an hour and a half to get that same result. And so, in all of this, it doesn't matter necessarily how long you're spending on it. It just matters the ultimate results that you're getting out of it. And so, in the beginning, we always say you should be prospecting for 2 hours, minimum 2 hours every single day. The reason is like, what else do you have to do, right? Like your goal is to generate leads and to generate business. And until you build up that pipeline and do that good enough, or until you're efficient enough at it, that's the time that you need to set aside to invest in it. But that's active prospecting. That's not getting ready to get ready, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, what we know from studying millionaire real estate agents' businesses is that we know that 82% of their business that they convert comes from a total of 4 sources or less. This is why we teach you in classes, and why the systems and models are that you need to have at least 3 really strong lead generation pillars in your business of what you are intensely focused on. You can have other things and things that you try, but these 3 to 4 really need to drive the core of your business for the lead generation model. For a lot of agents, their strongest pillar is their sphere, people that they know, their database. Getting business from that database is, for most agents, one of their strongest lead pillars. So the challenge is that in order for this to work effectively and efficiently, and in order for the lead generation model to work, is that you have to be focused and have a model around what you're doing. It is so easy for us to hear of a new idea, get bored, lose our focus. We talked about that right at the first hour, and that following a system and model can get very boring because it's habits and it's routine over and over and over again. We can lose focus of that, and we can hear about a great idea and like, oh, I'm going to try that. And then all of a sudden you switch gears and you go all in on that. Well, then you're going to end up at the end of the year with a bunch of mixed bag results from lots of different areas, but no one thing is going to be standing out. And you're going to feel like a chicken with your head cut off running around and saying like, oh, okay, I did somewhat of a good business, but man, that was a lot of hard work. And so for me personally, in my own business, I learned this lesson that it was when I became intensely focused on 3 areas, that's when I really started getting a lot more results in my business than trying to like scrounge up business from everywhere. And it's nothing new. It's not like we haven't been taught this in classes, right? Sometimes it just takes a little bit longer for it to sink in. And we're all hard-headed in a little bit of ways. But this tells us that as well.
So what are your top 3?
So my top 3 are, well, it's really just top 2 right now, but for my database and sphere, so marketing to my database and sphere, and then social media videos is for me the top 2.
I'm gonna ask you this, I don't know, did somebody tell it, did I hear somebody say that you like to do social media, YouTube or something, or is that?
I do, yes.
You do?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, where I educate people about moving to the area. So, a tiny bit on that, just to share with you. Back in 2020, I was trying videos all across different platforms, right? So, well, TikTok and like Reels wasn't really a thing back then, but I was doing some videos on Facebook and some videos on YouTube, and was just trying to like throw everything against the wall and seeing what stuck. And then I was realizing like, oh, I wasn't really getting any results out of hardly any of this, that I was spending money on it and kind of getting frustrated. But it wasn't until I said, okay, let's just narrowly focus on YouTube. Let me go find a system and a model of what someone else has already done that's been successful at it. Went and found that, and then said, okay, I'm going to intensely follow this plan for the next 3 months before I even think about doing anything else different in my business. And I'm going to be very, very committed and do everything that they say in the class, right? And it was after doing that that I started getting results.
To the camera. That's when people get crazy.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. But the bigger lesson of that is that that same lesson that I learned there can apply to anything. And I mean, it's not new, it's not novel. I didn't discover something that's secret. This is everything that I teach. Do you have something, Lisa?
No. I did want to mention though about your YouTube. I think I told you. That I come from Florida, so I have another KW group down there. And they texted me, hey, do you know this Sarah so-and-so and so-and-so on YouTube? And I'm cracking up. And I go, yeah, that's my team leader up in Georgia. So she's around.
That's funny. Okay, so this is in your workbook. And so the database model is a really good, strong foundation of this lead generation model. We know that you, as real estate agents, are going to get a lot of business from your database. And so you're capturing leads through prospecting and marketing. You're adding them to your database. You are talking to those leads. You're forming a relationship with them, someone that you met at an open house, someone that you met door knocking. You're calling them on a consistent basis. You're inviting them to client events. You're sending them your newsletter, you're communicating with them, you're strengthening that existing relationship with people that you already know as well, all at the same time, and you are interacting with them, you're providing them some problem-based solutions of, hey, I can help you, sell your house in this difficult market, whatever, and you are converting those into actual business. And you're hoping that from this you're getting new business from this, repeat business from current clients that you closed years ago, and that you're also getting referrals from this as well. And so anytime you're getting those referrals and you're going back and you're putting them back into the top of the thing, now they're coming back into the contacts bucket of your database model. Questions around that? Okay, so we talk a lot about making sure that you have implemented a 36-touch system. And so this is a really great outline of how to do this. So quarterly phone calls, a monthly email, newsletter, something that you're sending out in big command. A really great tee up for our next team meeting next week. Kelly, our tech trainer, is going to be explaining and teaching on command about how we can implement this type of system in command on an easy way to do it. So recently, KW has done some studies on real estate agents' businesses, and what we know for real estate agents that are using command, that if you have 201 contacts in command, and you are communicating with them on a consistent basis, and you're using a 36 touch plan, that you can expect to earn on average at least $90,000 in GCI. So that's based on studying thousands of agents and businesses, and we know that that magic number is 201 contacts in command and implementing a 36 touch system. That's what we're going to be teaching on and touching on next week. And I'll give you a hint, if you come to that class, we're going to give you a 12 touch campaign that's already done for you to that email newsletter throughout the year. It's our Christmas gift to you. It's going to be really good. But you're going to implement this 36 touch system so that you are able to convert leads out of your database. This is just a warning that anytime you're making phone calls that you are being TCPA compliant, someone's on the do not call list, don't call them, you'll get fined. Or if they report you, you'll get fined, and that can be very costly.
How do you know something?
So typically on services that you're pulling that data from, it'll tell you that they're on the do not call list. Okay, so I think one of the things we skipped through here, in your packet, you have lead generation activities. So there's a strong list of different ways that you can lead generate. This is not an exhaustive list. And going back to at the top of the hour, we talked about how at Mega Camp they introduced and interviewed a lot of different agents on their systems and models of exactly how they are doing something really great in their business. A lot of that was based around lead generation. And so there was someone that gave their system around farming. There was someone that gave their system around making cold calls. Someone that gave their system around holding client events. Like all of those are really great ways, and so you can go and find those exact systems and models that those agents are using, and you can also pick which ones that you want to implement in your own business.
What page number is that you just held up?
Thank you. Sorry. Please jump ahead. Okay, so we don't have this slide in there. I think if you look on page 4.15 in your workbook, this gives you an example of if one of your lead generation pillars is going to be your database, how much business can you expect to receive from your database every single year? And so going through this, this is using the number of 6% of people in your database will buy or sell each year. Some agents that run a really great 36 touch system, they have a little bit higher conversion rate from their database, closer to 8% to 10%. You can use that 6% if you want to go on the low end. So what that means is that for every 100 people in your database, you should be able to get 6 pieces of business from those 100 people every single year. And so keep in mind that doesn't necessarily mean that those 6 people are going to buy or sell, but they might have a family member that they refer you to, they might have a neighbor that they know that's thinking about buying or selling. But your job as a real estate agent is to implement that 36 touch plan and to stay in constant communication and be that resource for them. So you see here on this example, they're showing you someone that has a database size of 500, multiplying that by an assumption of 6% of those people are going to transact every year, and then they're saying, okay, if your conversion rate is 50%, if you get an opportunity to close 50% of those people, then you would need to, sorry, I'm saying this wrong. Then you need to go on 15 appointments a year. And then you see in number 4, it says you ask for and 4% of your database gives you a referral and you convert 50% of them. So naturally you're gonna have people in your database that they're gonna have their own immediate needs to transact. personally buy or sell. And then you're gonna have a portion of your database that you should be able to get referrals from if you do that with intentionality on a regular basis. Great plug, we have the call into win day this Friday, where we're giving you as a market center an activity around like how you can call and get those referrals. That is a lead generation strategy that you can implement, a couple times throughout the year specifically for asking for a referral. So at the bottom of page 4.15, it gives you the opportunity there to plug in your own goals from your own database. And so this will tell you of those appointments that you identify on the economic model, how many of these can you expect to get from your database? And likely there's going to be a gap there, right? You probably have more appointments that you need on your economic model than what you're going to find here on this database model. So then your goal is, okay, what is that gap? And then what lead generation methods am I going to implement in my business to make up that gap? Because we've got to get those appointments from someplace. Unless you have like such a great database business that you are generating all of your business from your database. There are some agents that do that, but they are very, very intentional and they run a really great database program. Okay, so lead generation, best practices, lead generate every day. Figure out what those pillars of your business are going to be outside of your database. So we talked about 82% of your business is going to come from 4 sources. What are those 4 sources going to be? Tracking your numbers, figuring out what those conversion rates are so that you can know where those extra appointments are going to come from. Like Sean said earlier, it's important to time block for those lead generation activities. If you're not doing that consistently every single day, every single week, then we're not following systems and models, and it's really, really easy to get behind or look up and it's April and you're way behind on your goals, and there's always this sense of like, oh, there's plenty of time to catch up. And then all of a sudden, here we are, we're in December, right? The year's over with, and you may or may not be where you want to be. And a lot of that is due to the activities that we do every single day. On page 417, it says avoiding these lead generation traps. Not using both prospecting and marketing in your lead generation. So you are marketing and having conversations with your database, but if you're also not adding to that prospecting-based lead generation activities, you're selling yourself short, or there's going to be that gap there in your business. Relying exclusively on referrals for additions to your database instead of generating additional leads from other sources. Undervaluing the benefits of touch campaigns and not using touch campaigns purposefully. Avoiding quarterly calls to each person in your database. So it feels like people fall into 1 or 2 camps. Either they love making those phone calls to the database, or you have people that would like much rather talk to a stranger than they would like call someone that they know in their database. So make sure that you're having those phone calls. There's nothing worse than getting on Facebook and seeing a friend or a coworker that you used to work with, and they just closed on a house. And you're like, why? And then you just look at yourself and you're like, well, I didn't call them. It's my fault, right? Maintaining multiple separate databases rather than one database. An amazing database system here in Command. You can get with Kelly, our tech trainer. She can definitely work with you one-on-one, and there's fabulous classes that we teach on that. Not taking advantage of Facebook ads in Command as a lead generation source at a low cost. That is a great way of generating business. Yeah. All right. We got through the economic model and the lead generation model. We will post the entire packet in the Facebook group, and we'll share that resource with you. That goes into all the other models as well that we didn't have a chance to get to. Does anyone immediately have a question or anything that I didn't touch up that you wanted to ask? Yes, I'll get you a copy. Certainly. Yeah, right.
I just wanted to mention that Reese Stevens did a great presentation a while back on knowing your numbers.
Yeah.
And she had that spreadsheet out there. I have that spreadsheet if anybody wants it, goes over all that stuff.
Okay.
Share.
Yeah, that'd be great. One of the things we didn't get a chance to touch on was leveraging in your business. We had a brief conversation about that earlier, but leverage in your business can look like a lot of different things. It doesn't have to be like an actual transaction coordinator. We talked about this in some other classes, that leverage in your world can be grocery delivery services, having someone mow your lawn, like any activity that you do in your day-to-day life that takes you away from either being able to focus on your business or being able to focus on your family or enjoy that kind of like recharge time. That's an opportunity to add leverage into your world that can help you buy back some of your time to either rest and recharge or to generate more business. So just something to keep in mind.
So I know how much I make, how much my time is worth an hour now.
Yeah.
So do I want to do this or do that where it's not worth my time? That's what you said. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I remember I had a coach, and I'm notoriously cheap. I hate to spend money on things. And he was telling me that it was time to get a transaction coordinator. And I was like, it's $400. I can't spend that much money. But no, like I need this money for my family, my big why, right? At the time, I was like, we gotta make this work. And I didn't want to give that money up. And he was like trying to tell me like how much of a difference it was going to make in my world, and it was going to relieve so much stress. And so he told me, he's like, just let her do one, and then you keep one, and then do every other one, and see kind of like what it feels like. And I was like, okay, that's a good compromise. I can do that.
Does a transaction coordinator need to be licensed?
No, to do certain activities they do. Most transaction coordinators, some are, some aren't, but yeah, we can talk about that.
Yeah.
So the so I gave that first transaction, then the next transaction that I had, I gave it to the transaction coordinator, and it was just like, like the lights come in turn. I was like, this is amazing, and I never ended up doing any other ones after that. It was like well worth
one though. That's the important.
Yeah, it was like well worth the expense, and just relieved like you waking up in the middle of the night going, oh gosh, when does that financing consistency, end, and have they signed this form? You have someone that's handling all that with you. So I don't know where I got off on that. Buying back your time, yes. So sometimes don't be cheap to spite of the impact things can make on your world, especially like the lawn, right? So my husband wanted to do he didn't want to give up mowing the lawn, and there was a time period where he didn't have time to, and so we hired it out. Not only did the lawn people do it like way better than my husband, and so I personally wanted them to keep doing it, but I was trying to, tell them it's not worth your time to do this. We have so many other things to do, and but thankfully I won that battle. So our yard looks nice, nice pretty edges. All right, we have our top agent video from November to share with you. So we're going to dive into that, and then we're going to hear from Chris Cavini with New Tech, our lunch sponsor today. So, just to share with y'all behind the scenes, the reason utility yes, it was a long time ago. Oh. I'll check on that. Chris, with you, Todd. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Sponsor.
So, all right, let's think about this. We can talk about mold, because that's a favorite topic. Right? We can do politics instead. Who wants to do that? Okay, let's do religion. You know what? I think actually football and politics, we might have a fight on that one. So, again, thank y'all for having me. I did go ahead and cook. This is, you're only the second office to get it. So I did a white chicken chili. I'm still experimenting a little bit with it. To me, it tastes good, but I'll let y'all be the judge of that. There's normal, just ground beef chili if you like that. Cornbread, and I've got a backup in case everybody complains and says it's terrible. But other than that, and one of the things that we've been seeing a lot of is there's a lot of lipstick on a pig going out there. And last 2 weeks ago, when you did your vendor fair, we had our question, and my question, and I want to do a show of hands because maybe some of you were there. What's more important, the color of the mold or the amount of mold? Show of hands for color. All right, and show of hands for amount. Yeah, so you amount people win. And here's the thing, there's two reasons you win. Number one, and this is really important, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, because literally, I think like 80% of the people that came up when I asked them that question, they said color. Number one, it doesn't matter what color it is. Different molds are different colors throughout their life cycle. It depends on what they're feeding on, how much moisture, all kinds of stuff. So just because it's black in color does not mean that it is the black mold. So I know it's a very important distinction to make. The second problem is, so if I told you that there's a spot underneath, let's just say that strip underneath the window, it's been leaking, and that's the deadly toxic black mold that's gonna kill us all like anthrax, right? Which is worse, that strip or this whole room covered in that white powdery stuff?
The white powder stuff.
Yeah, the white powdery stuff. That actually it grows faster, there's way more volume of it, okay? And volume does matter, okay? And it depends on how quick it overwhelms a person's systems. So please plant that seed that a lot of times people are discounting. We're getting back to where sellers are starting to do work again and buyers are going, okay, yeah, and they're all panicky. So plant those seeds that if somebody sees something, generally speaking, by the time we walk in, we're like, oh no, it's all over the place. And what they saw was that. And that's a good harbinger, right? It's the barking dog. And then the last thing we'll talk about real quick, and then we'll let you go eat. Testing. I probably should book the lunch and learn because we go over it a lot in the CE class, but that's a 3-hour class, and it's way easier to get y'all here for 45 minutes if I feed you. And we'll talk about testing. But the high level of this is the traditional forms of testing that are out there. It's kind of like driving a 1960s car. Sure, it gets you to work, but it's not really the right car. So there's definitely better forms of testing that are out there. And we've actually been making investments in that testing. So if you're looking for good, definitive answers, then those are the types of things you're after. And again, home inspectors, what they're running, again, I call it the barking dog test. There's nothing wrong with it. But it is not definitive, and it doesn't really give you lots of good answers, if that's what you're after. Now, if you don't want to know, that's okay. Don't go with that. All right, and sometimes there's a reason for that. All right. Mold inspections, remediation, waterproofing, some structure. Any questions?
If someone works from home and come in and treat the home for like mold or whatever, tell them to vacate, or can you do it with them being there?
So are they working in the space that we're going to be working in?
No.
So I prefer that they leave. However, in that particular instance, what I would just forewarn them is sometimes, even though the products are natural, there is an odor. You may not like it, and you might end up seeing that you've got to vacate for maybe an hour. I prefer that they're not there because, again, people tend to go, "Oh my God, it almost killed me." So I'm not kidding. I wish I could do it.
Quick question, I know we see the moles in the windows in the showers and stuff.
Mhm.
Is it mostly in our ventilation system?
So most of the time, it's unfinished spaces where we see it the
Oh,
most.
okay.
And that goes for above drop ceilings. So if you've got a finished basement with a drop ceiling, odds are really good. There's something, it's probably been up there for 20 years. I don't know that it's recent. There's no way for us to tell you that that happened in the last whenever, unless there's a direct leak. Okay, but it's crawl spaces, unfinished spaces. Again, if you've got some in the bathroom, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're not running, shower mold, they're not running the vent fans.
Yeah.
Those, if it's a leak, I'm more concerned, but
Okay.
that little spot, I'll look at it, don't get me wrong, it's just, I'm gonna look at your buyer or seller and go, you don't want me doing this. And that is one thing I will say, we're pretty forthright about whether we think you need us or not. Okay? Anybody else? Awesome, thank you all much, I hope that you enjoyed the food. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today.
Does it
And,
say on
Look
the,
forward to seeing you on next week.
say,
Can I add one thing for Riley? Yeah. So coming in December for the calendar, we're going to talk about databases on here. We're doing a database day on the 15th, where we're doing a full day of everybody come in, work in your database. We're going to have holiday music, snacks, make it a super fun day. So as you guys are working through making all your calls and stuff, we have database to put in, database to clean up, all the above. That's going to be a full day of everybody coming in and participating in that. So
That's on the 15th?
on the 15th, correct?
Yeah, it's on the calendar.
It's on the calendar. The calendar was set, but I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, it's the 15th. I know it's a Wednesday, and so we're just gonna make a big fun day of it and, decorate and that kind of stuff. But that way, Kelly will be here to provide all kinds of tech support. If you need help, merging contacts into command, from your phone, whatever that looks like, we'll be here to make that full day of getting your database ready for 2020.
All right.
Yeah. All right, yeah,
thank you.
So for like facilitating time, I have somebody see back that test about here's and one of
I
the
love
things I know
like somebody raised an
I've seen the installation of using peroxide water. And like this, always goes so far.
Typically, the time distance.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what we figured, but we couldn't find them.
Yeah.